Nuclear, denoting, relating to, or powered by the energy released in nuclear fission or fusion, or denoting to possessing or involving weapons using nuclear energy. Nuclear has always been controversial, whether it be the after effects on the environment from power or the destructive capability of the bomb. From the first nuclear weapon used to the meltdown at Chernobyl, this is the history of nuclear development. First, let's start off with a question. Why was nuclear development started? The first nuclear reactor was built as part of the Manhattan Project, Chicago Power 1, in 1942. The reactor was described by Enrico Fermi, one of the head scientists, as a crude pile of black bricks and wooden timbers. And it was. The first time it ran, it went for 4.5 minutes with an output of half a watt. It was later ramped up to 200 watts, enough to power a light bulb, but was discontinued due to radiation hazard. The whole goal was to create a way to produce immense amounts of powers. If done right, uranium can produce up to 10 million times the amount of power as the same amount of coal. Nuclear power is a much more efficient way, and contrary to popular belief, coal factories put more radiation, yes radiation, in the air via greenhouse gases than nuclear power plants do. To an extent, nuclear power is a cleaner, better alternative to coal. As said before, this is all part of the Manhattan Project, the project that created the first atomic bomb. The atomic bomb was the original weapon of mass destruction, a weapon so powerful it blew conventional bombs out of the water as well as everything around them. On the 6th of August 1945 at 8:16 am, the first atomic bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, was dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 90% of the city and 80,000 people were instantly vaporized, and several thousand more people died later from the radiation poisoning. Only 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, Nagasaki, another Japanese city, was bombed at around noon. This time the bomb, the Fat Man, was dropped. Fat Man was a vastly bigger bomb and instantly killed 40,000 people. This was the second and last weapon of mass destruction ever to be used in warfare. This changed the world forever. The Japanese emperor was forced to surrender as not to risk any more civilian casualties, and World War II ended. This effect this had not only on Japan, but the world was immense. This led up to the Cold War between the US and the USSR from 1947 to 1991, a state of nuclear tension between the two superpowers. Stalin had known about the Manhattan Project for a long time, something Vice President Truman didn't know until he became president. After World War II, the Soviets had a steady supply of uranium and developed and tested their first atomic bomb, First Lightning, on August 29, 1949. This shocked the US, as they had not expected the Soviets to get nuclear weapons until the mid-50s. At this point, the nuclear arms race was on. Both countries spent immense amounts of money trying to beat the other country to developing the first hydrogen bomb. The US created and tested their first hydrogen bomb on November 1, 1952, which had a yield of 10 megatons. A single megaton is equivalent to 1,000 tons of TNT exploding. The Soviets developed and detonated their first hydrogen bomb on November 22, 1955. It had a massive yield of 58 megatons. The bomb was named Tsar Bomba and was originally designed to have a yield of 100 megatons, but was scaled down as the risk of the nuclear fallout was too high, and feared that the plane would not be able to escape the explosion radius in time. It still stands as the largest man-made explosion ever. At this point, both countries had the power to annihilate each other. This led to MAD, mutually assured destruction. This was the fact that if one country were to launch a nuclear attack on the other, then they would be able to deploy the warheads before the enemy reached theirs. Some countries love this power, with Russia being the most nuclear-able country in the world, America second, and France third. But some countries despise nuclear technology. They hate the power they have and the problems they cause. Take New Zealand for example. On the 10th of July 1985, the Greenpeace ship, the Rainbow Warrior, was sunk in Auckland Harbour by French Foreign Intelligence Services, the DGSE. The ship was going on an anti-nuclear protest at the French-controlled Mururoa Atoll in the Pacific. The French responded by sending agents to sink the ship using limpet mines. One dead, Fernando Pereira, drowned during the sinking. Compensation was paid to Greenpeace eventually by the French government, who initially denied it, and to Fernando's family. Why did our age-old ally, who've been working with since the First World War, decide to treat us like this? New Zealand is very anti-nuclear, so much to the point where we declined a free battleship from the US because it was nuclear powered. We're strong believers that countries do not need nuclear warheads to protect itself, and that we don't need the benefits of nuclear energy in case of the event of a horrifying nuclear disaster, which can have many permanent effects on the environment and make an area uninhabitable for hundreds or even thousands of years. Some such disasters were the infamous Chernobyl and the more recent Fukushima. Both reached a 7 on the INES scale, making them the worst nuclear disasters in history. The story of Chernobyl was on the 26th of April, 1986, during a stress test to make sure the backup electrical generators were working. To put it bluntly, they didn't. The power to the cooling went out, and the whole reactor 4 melted down to the pile of irradiated metal we all know and love, known as the elephant's foot, the single most radioactive entity to exist. During cleanup and inspection of the disaster, the elephant's foot was discovered. All scientists, despite being fully protective, died of radiation poisoning not long after. The incident caused 31 deaths directly, and several more died from cancer later. After that, the whole plant was sealed in a giant metal sarcophagus, never to be opened again, and the whole area was deemed uninhabitable. It was similar with Fukushima, except this time, on the 11th of March 2011, a tsunami hit the factory, causing power to be lost. And without power, there is no cooling, as such happened in Chernobyl. And without cooling, 3 reactors melted down, but instead of creating something like the elephant's foot, most of the radiation poured into the Pacific Ocean, and a cloud of radiation spreading all the way to America. The area was evacuated and is still currently uninhabitable, and like Chernobyl, it probably won't be for an extremely long time. The development of nuclear energy and weapons has shaped the way the world has formed, and we have come a long way since Chicago Power 1, but has it been for the better? How has nuclear development shaped the world, other than craters of course? It has changed the way we have developed as a society, the way we act towards each other. America and Russia will for a long time be known as the big guys with lots of nukes, and it has changed how we act towards each other, such as the Cold War and the bombing of the Rainbow Warrior. It has changed the way the media looks at the world. People strike first too with the ICBM. It's also resulted in some pretty neat games like Fallout and Stalker, based in a world where we have bombed each other and living in an irradiated world. Although over-exaggerated, it has changed the way we live, in fear or in power, in a country that abolishes everything nuclear or embraces it like a child, and squeezes every bit of benefit from it that we can. We live in a world powered by nuclear.